What is up, guys, and welcome to the Meeple Minded podcast, the podcast where we talk all things tabletop gaming. My name is Jason.
And I'm James.
How are you doing this week, James?
Tired.
Tired?
Tired.
You're back to work this week, aren't you?
I am.
And the idiot that you started doing overtime.
I know.
Why? Why did you do this, James? You're mental.
I know, but I need the money.
You don't need the money.
I do need the money.
No, you don't.
I always need the money.
You never spend it.
I don't spend it yet.
I suppose saving money, James, is technically what we're supposed to do. I'm just not very good at that, to be honest. If I've got money, I spend it. So that's just me. But yeah, other than tired and being back to work, James, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
What did you do with your holiday, James?
Absolutely nothing. Because it wasn't a holiday for holiday. It was holiday because I needed to use the holiday before I lose it.
Okay. Did you do the hobby like you said you were going to?
Yes.
Did you? What hobby did you do?
I did heresy.
Did you now?
I did.
What part of the hobby did you do?
A building.
More building.
More building.
You need to start painting, James. You got to paint because building's all great, but you will not. You're like me. You won't put grey plastic on the table.
I won't.
So painting, James.
Painting.
So more have you got to build?
I think I just have the Kratos to build now. So I've built the box.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay, is that the tank that came with the base box, or is that an additional?
No, that's an additional one that I bought.
Okay, fair enough. Are you actually going to play the game, James? That's the next question.
Yes.
Or are you waiting for the next edition to come out? 'Cause by the time you've actually finished, it might be version 2, 3, 4, 5. One of them.
Oh, yes, the Games Workshop kicking the proverbial crown jewels. It's like, I have finally finished painting my army and building it and it's ready to game. Here's a new edition. Everything you own is useless.
Oh, it's not useless. They're not always that bad, but it is generally, here's a new edition. All that stuff is not useless. It's not very good because this new stuff is the better stuff. And you want this now, don't you? Don't you, James? You want this. Rub it in your face. Well, we've been playing a fair few games recently, James.
We have.
Are there any highlights to what we've been playing recently that you particularly like?
Unmatched.
Oh, again with the unmatched, James.
I'm sorry, Mr. How many sets of I just got out and bought?
Not that many. I've got 3 or 4 now. It's not too.
How many did you have?
1. Yeah, it's only 3 more, James.
It's only 3.
It's not bad, is it, really? And to be fair, 2 of them were purchased as a matter of urgency because they were the ones that were announced that they were taking out of production. So I was like, well, I actually like those 2 sets, so I needed to buy them. And then the other one was just there to buy. So I was like, well, I bought that one as well. So it's just logic, James, logic. What I have spent a fair bit on now is the storage solution that I've made for Unmatched.
Yes.
And that's all built and done now, which is really, really good. The problem is it now looks very empty. So I think more sets of Unmatched might be on the horizon. We shall see. But yes, we have been playing quite a bit of Unmatched.
You've been having a little bit of rage when it comes to Unmatched, haven't you?
Have I?
Yes.
The impending Kickstarter.
That you can't access.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm really hoping that they do a U-turn with that. But yeah, not shipping to outside the US or Canada. I know it's all coming to retail. Don't get your knickers in a twist. I fully understand it's coming to retail, but it's also coming to retail through Yellow, which means in the UK, we're probably going to get it about 8 months after it's actually released in this coming July, I think it is. So right now, my hopes are that they'll announce, oh no, we're going to be at Games Expo with it. Obviously, that's in June, not July, which is when the release is. So we shall see. But yeah, sort it out, Restoration Games. Ship everywhere, not just US. But we've also had a couple of game nights with our good friend Ant-Man.
We have.
And he introduced us to Fallout Shelter. What did you think of that? Was that all right?
When we played it correctly, it was very fun.
Yeah, I mean, the first time we played it, we did get things slightly wrong. But Ant-Man highlighted the issues that were done wrong, and we played it again. And I'm pleased to say I won again. So, yeah, it's a good game.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't.
No, that's not what my memory says, James. My memory says I won.
Your memory might say that, but your games app will say differently because you log your plays.
This is very true. I can't even do. Yes, James, you won.
I did.
You did win. By how many points was it?
By a whole point.
Very, very interesting game, actually. I'm not really into the source material, i.e. Fallout. Is that something you've played in the past?
Nope.
No? Okay. Me neither, so I don't really know how true it is to the source material, but the game itself, very, very enjoyable. If we can get at least a couple more plays of that, I'd like to maybe make that an episode that we could do. And seeing as though it's Ant-Man's game, maybe we'll get Ant-Man on to talk about it himself. I'm sure won't object to that in any way.
No.
So, yeah, very, very good game. But there's a couple of games that we've been playing recently, James. So let's now talk about the game we played last year, which, ironically, is another game that Ant-Man owned. I don't know if he still does, which is, I will actually try and find out. But it was Nemesis Lockdown, James. This time last year. What are your thoughts on Nemesis Lockdown?
Interesting. Probably broadly the same as when we did the episode on it, which is it's a good game.
Yep.
It has some very interesting mechanics. I still prefer the first one.
Yeah. I would have to agree on that one. And I think that is evidenced by the fact that I haven't played it since.
No, neither have I.
I mean, that could be argued that I don't own it, so it's going to be harder for me to get it to the table full stop. But I do have access to it from Ant-Man, or again, I don't know if he sold it now, but I had access to it. And yet we've played the original multiple times then. Again, could be argued because you own it.
Yep.
Maybe that's why. But arguably, I would still choose the original.
Yep.
So that's a bit of a shame.
However, there's another game that has just had a third installment announced.
Yes,
so
the third of the trilogy. It's the final game.
Yes,
in the series, which is gonna. What was it? Is it Aftermath?
No, Aftermath's the expansion.
Yeah, I can't remember the actual name of it now. Paul talked about it on the news a couple of weeks ago, anyway. So, but yeah, the third installment coming. Looking forward to trying that.
Yes, definitely.
From the description that I was reading, and I know you highlighted it as well, it sounds very different.
It does. I think this one's going to be much more combat orientated.
Yeah, and I quite like that idea.
Yes.
To be honest, I do quite like that idea. I think you said maybe more towards Project Elite.
It gave, the description gave that vibe off. It's like you are, in this one, you are it's the Aliens ripoff. You are a squad of Marines raiding the nest.
Yeah. I would say it's probably, I think for me, it's still going to be more Nemesis based, but I reckon you'll have the whole wave upon wave aspect of it. So yeah, really excited for the newest installment, James. Is it going to be a game that you're going to back? Are you going to continue with owning Nemesis?
That will be a tough one.
Yeah? Tough to talk yourself out of it?
Yeah, I think that might be one that I end up backing.
Yeah? Okay, fair enough. I mean, that'll be interesting. I mean, we'll have a conversation close to the time, but I don't think I can justify it at the moment because I've actually got quite a few Kickstarters coming out over the coming months.
Yeah.
Being Awaken Realms, I'm going to guess we're going to be talking big box miniatures, at least £100, I'd imagine.
Yep, and then all the stuff that usually comes with an Awakened.
Yeah,
Realms.
see, this is going to be the hard one for you, isn't it? Because you didn't back Nemesis.
No,
you got the retail version, whereas now you're going to be seeing all of that awesome goodness, the expansions that will inevitably be released with it.
Yep,
the gaming mat, the neoprene gaming mat will probably be there. They might give you a few other options as well. So yes, I will be doing my best, James, to help you through this troubling period in your life by sending you the link every single day.
You are going to be, this is going to be your revenge for me sitting there going, buy it, buy it,
yes,
buy it,
yes,
buy
it
it,
is.
buy it.
It is very, very much, and I am very much looking forward to this. But I am hoping, there's nothing announced, there's no hint at it in any way, shape or form, but I would love to see maybe some early demo copies maybe at Games Expo or possibly Essen. Seeing as though Essen is just before the supposed Kickstarter date, because it's not till later this year.
Yep.
What guts me about that, James, is because the Kickstarter's not till later this year, it's going to be at least a year between the Kickstarter and delivery.
Yep.
We could potentially, James, still be 2 years away from being able to play that game.
Yes.
It's just sometimes I just wish they didn't announce these things in advance. But what can you do? Awaken Realms. Lots of minis, lots of money, bad times. But yes, anyway, back to Nemesis Lockdown, considering that's what we were supposed to be talking about. Is it a thumbs up or a thumbs down from you, James?
I think it's still on the whole thumbs up.
Yeah? Yeah. I would probably still give it a thumbs up. I do recommend the game, but I think, overall, I'd go for the first one.
I think the biggest thing for me, and it still stands out, that the thing that makes the original Nemesis so much fun is that semi-cooperative, but who's going to stab me in the back mechanic.
Yeah.
Whereas when we played Lockdown, it was very much just straight from the get-go, every man for himself trying to escape. It's like you could literally stay away from everyone else and it didn't impact the game whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean that was a shame because obviously the semi-co-op aspect was there, but most people chose not to
It wasn't
to do it. It really was just a case of if I get out, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just do that then. Rather than trying to screw other people over, it was just, be fair, I still, to this day, my favourite bit was escaping, getting the suit that allowed me to walk on the surface and not have to use the Jeep thing.
Yeah, and still taking
the Jeep and making sure that no one else could get out.
But my point is that you chose to do that for the lulz.
Yeah.
Whereas most of those kind of moments in the original, you have to do them.
Yeah, in order to win, yeah. Also the light and dark mechanic. That's the one thing I would say was the highlight for me.
That was the positive. That was the positive for me, the light and dark mechanic. But I was discussing this with one of the guys at the gaming club. That is a mechanic you could easily, if you owned Lockdown so that you had the dice, you could easily backport that into the original.
Yeah. I would like to see that. I genuinely
because I believe, I'm running from memory here, so I might be wrong on this. I believe the Intruder deck is exactly the same as the base game original Nemesis, with the exception that it has on the cards whether the lights go out in a certain section or not. So you basically need the card deck and the light dice from Lockdown. And you could just put it into the base game Nemesis, and all you'd have to do is divide the board into 3.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure at the time we said it was going to be something we were going to try, and I don't think we ever did.
No, I don't think we did.
Which is a shame. Maybe we should, James. We keep saying we need to play Nemesis again, so we'll have to get that to the table soon. But anyway, yes, Nemesis Lockdown, that's the game we played last year. I think it's still a yay from both of us, but still not as good as the original. Anyway, James, we're doing a topical today.
A topical?
We are indeed, and I would announce what we're going to do, but the listeners already know because they clicked on the title of the episode. So we're going to be talking about the difference, and I guess our personal opinions, between vocal and silent player turns.
Yep.
Is that a conversation you think we can drag out for about 20, 30 minutes? I think we can. Yeah, I think there's enough to be said, because this is an interesting one. I did see a conversation about it the other day online, and it seems to be, this really is the two sides of a coin, with very, very few that sit in the middle.
Yep.
So that's what prompted me to actually want to have this conversation. So should we dive into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okie dokie. So, James, right from the get-go, what's your personal take on vocal or silent player turns?
I mean, I have to be honest, mate. I think I'm largely indifferent.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you're one of the few that sit slap bang in the middle there.
I think, and this isn't really for anyone else's benefit rather than my own, I tend to be a vocal. But that's more because that's how I help order my mind when I'm trying to take my turn. I'm not talking to the rest of the table. I'm actually talking to myself.
Yeah.
But I end up vocalizing it. So, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to play this.
Yeah.
And that is me. Especially if I'm new to the game.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things that I was going to say. I've written down some pros and cons of the whole being vocal while doing a turn. But I think, if I'm being honest, I would say I am indifferent because I will happily play games either way. But I would say as a standard practice, as someone who quite often runs games for people that have never played those games before, I actually lean more towards the vocal turn because it adds a certain aspect of, with those new players, I can tell immediately if something's gone wrong or a rule has been misunderstood, or maybe they're doing something that they shouldn't be able to do at that time.
Yep.
At which point it's far easier to correct it. Whereas in some games that I've played, for example, where we have been, air quotes, experienced players, and 3/4 of the way through the game, someone's noticed something that wasn't right, And it turns out that it's basically because 1 or 2 or 3 players have been doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. And that would have been highlighted and caught very early on and potentially would have changed the game substantially.
Yeah.
So on those grounds, surely vocal turns are better.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, I was just thinking about this, most of the time around our table as well, I would class that most of us are vocal players, not necessarily in the strictest sense of literally walking the table through your turn.
Yeah.
But the banter that goes back and forth is basically a vocal turn because, you know, we're playing a strategy game. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to mess up Jason.
Yeah.
But it is just rather than me saying, okay, I'm going to move here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different way of vocalizing
it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, for me, that actually hits into one of my other pros. We play games very, very socially, James. Everything about us playing tabletop games is social.
Yep.
We do it for the social side of things. And as you said, vocalizing your turns enables you to be a little bit more social, whether it be banter or just, I don't know, some noise around the table rather than crickets.
Yeah.
You know, I find it really awkward, to be honest, to play games that are just
it is. I mean,
silent turns.
With us, I think it's if the table's gone silent, it's a very intense turn because everyone is suddenly like, this is very close and I need to concentrate on what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Like, again, we were just talking about it in the intro to this. We were talking about Fallout Shelter.
Yep.
The game we played the other day, towards the end of that game, you know, contrary to what I'm usually playing like, I was so silent the entire time. Even when it got to my turn and I was still, the cogs were whirring. That was the only noise you could hear in this room.
Yes, I successfully managed to make him think.
Because I was literally having to sit there and I was counting, I was planning. It's like, well, how can I do this? You know, what way can I benefit myself for doing this? How can I stop James? Because I know James is my main competition at this point. You know, to the point that we got down to that very last move and I knew what you were going to do. And I knew what had to happen because I was winning and all you really had left to do that could get you any kind of points was to defeat a certain, they're like aliens or zombies or whatever it is on the board, which would have gained you just enough to be able to beat me. And you had enough workers to do it. It was all down to the luck of rolling those dice. And to contain myself when I saw you roll the exact amount that you needed was hard because I didn't want to give away exactly the fact that I had been counting, you know, your points and my points and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just, and you were vocalizing it as you were doing it. It's like, well, you know, I could do this, but this is going to get me more points. So I think I'll do that. And it's like, oh, damn it. He's figured it out. He's figured it. I don't think he has figured it out because he doesn't think like that, but he's figured it out, damn it.
I knew what I was doing. I didn't know how, I will admit, I did not know how many points it was. It was that pure. It's like, this is the way, basically. It's like, I have to do this.
It was the fact that particular enemy had this special, you know, it had a requirement for a special worker, which would have gained you double the rewards. If you'd destroyed that enemy with a standard guy, I would have been fine.
Yep.
But I knew that you had that exact required worker to get those double points. So it literally came down to the roll of those dice. But, you know, setting that game aside, it made that game fun. It made it very, very tense.
Yes.
You know, because you were vocalizing what you were doing. But using that as an example, James, leads me to sort of maybe a con to a vocal side of things, which for me is it could breed or be a breeding ground for someone who has analysis paralysis, who's spent the entire round planning their turn, but then it gets to their turn and then they basically do it all again, but vocally. At which point I'm sat here like, just pick and do something, please, because you've had, let's say, 10 minutes while other people are doing their turns, and now you're running through exactly the same things vocally, and I'm sat here doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because I know what I want to do, or if it's at the end of the game, is I just want to get this game over, find out who's won, and then move on to the next game.
Mm-hmm.
You know? How do you stand on that one?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This podcast is the result of years of phenomenological trial and error. It is the product of attempt after attempt after attempt. It is the product of years of introspective analysis, brought on by the occurrence of the strange and seemingly impossible. It began as an inquiry into the nature of reality. It is a work intended to be scrupulously followed for the desired results. Learn how to create a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, but that goes back to that literally walking you through a turn. It's like, we all know how to play the game.
Yeah. It is very, very tough, because I don't want to be too tough on someone who has got analysis paralysis, but I can't comment because, the other day, one of my turns took so long because the time between turns wasn't enough for me to fully decide what I wanted to do, so I had to then take a little bit extra. But rather than being vocal about it and putting everyone else through my thought process, is like, look, just give me a couple of minutes, talk amongst yourselves while I figure out exactly what I need to do.
Yeah, I also think there's a difference between a vocal turn, i.e. you vocalizing as you're moving pieces, and vocalizing every possible move you could make before you do it. There is a difference between the two.
Yeah. And I think that is it's something that needs to be highlighted, is like there's a difference between telling people what you're doing and what you could do before eventually saying what you're going to do. The other thing that I quite like about vocal turns, James, is even in games where there is not really any player interaction, someone vocalizing what they're doing keeps me interested in the game between turns. In other words, helps to fight that whole downtime element that we're always talking about.
Yeah.
And it stops me from picking up my phone. It stops me from, going to get a drink or going for a smoke or whatever it be. I'm still in the game despite the fact that it's not my turn.
Yeah. I mean, it benefits. It's a con if you are a vocal player, but to me, it benefits the other players around the board, because if the person's vocalizing their turn, you're less likely to actually miss something. As in strategy-wise, especially if it's a strategic game. It's like, it'd be quite easy on a silent turn when someone knows the game really well and they just start moving pieces to miss something and then not take it into account. Whereas if they vocalized it, okay, they're doing that. Okay, so 2 turns before my turn, I need to do this, this, and this. And I didn't miss anything because they helpfully vocalized their entire turn.
I mean, we can use Inish that we played the other evening as an example. I tend to vocalize what I'm doing. I've played my card. I mean, that game you kind of have to, because you're vocalizing what's on the card.
Yeah.
But then it kind of gets people's attention because you've read that card, and say I've played a movement card, they're then checking, where are you moving to?
Yeah.
Why is he moving there? Towards the end of the game, for example, I played I was very silent most of that game. Not much going on. Wasn't winning in any way, shape or form. Yet right at the end, I played I think it was the exploration card, and I got a new tile. Because I was the Bren at the time, I got to place the tile exactly where I wanted it, which was right over the other side of the table to where I was. Ironically, right next to where you and Ant were amassing some forces in the same tile. And I was like, well, what I need to do, because I was going for the sanctuary victories, and in that tile had a substantial amount of them, and I was just sort of like, well, I've got 2 of them over here. If I get into that tile, puts me in a winning condition, but I've only got 1 guy over there. So I did that, and immediately, as soon as I'd done that, you started questioning why. Why have I gone over there? But then didn't see my next plan, which was to get you 2 to start fighting and essentially killed each other so that I could move in with my 1 man, which was awesome. And I did win. It was really good. Thank you very much. But the point is, it's exactly what you said. Because I vocalized what I was doing, you immediately clicked to, why is he doing that?
Yeah, why?
Yeah. I'm really glad that you didn't actually click onto exactly what I was doing, but it made you think. So again, that's got to be another tick for vocal turns, right?
Yep.
I mentioned that vocal turns tend to keep me interested in a game. I don't know if it's something you struggle with as well, but if it's not a vocal turn, I find myself getting really disconnected with the game.
Yes. It makes the downtime when you're not doing anything feel a lot longer if it's just silence.
Yeah. I mean, even just a little bit of normal chatter and banter, I still feel a bit disconnected from the game itself. But I think just that someone vocalizing their turn, it helps. And I've also found that when someone doesn't vocalize their turn, what it does is actually increase the game length because they don't vocalize their turn, so they've done everything. And then someone, usually me, who hasn't quite clicked what they've done, will ask, oh, what did you do? At which point, we've then doubled the amount of time that it's taken for that turn, because instead of telling me what they're doing while they're doing it, they've done it, and now they're having to tell me what they've done.
Yep.
And I don't know whether that's more a thing of I just want, I want to know exactly what people are doing or anything like that. As you said, it helps me with my strategy.
Yeah.
Like knowing what other people are doing. What about you?
Yeah, I would say the same. I think it goes back to what I was saying about it. Like, if it's a silent turn, your attention wanders and then you've missed something. And then, like, you're like, oh, what did you do?
Yeah.
Or the other common one, is it my turn? Whose turn is it?
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the other thing, I guess, with a silent turn. People tend to forget to tell you when their turn's finished.
Yeah.
They do what they do, and then they sit there.
Yeah.
They sit there and don't say anything. Is that...
Yeah, it's like, I would definitely say that is, if you are more a fan of a silent turn, at least announce when you're finished.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand.
Because it's like, we're not mind readers and we can't tell if you've paused to think or if you're done.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I want to talk about a couple more cons that I really do have for it. Is I think if you are going to be a vocal player, there is such a thing as too much detail. We really need to keep what you're doing to what you're actually doing. I don't need to know the ins and outs of what you're doing. I just need to know what you've done. I think you need to keep all your working out to yourself. I don't need to hear all of that. I just need to know what you've done.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that as well. I'm the first to hold my hands up for this. If it's a tense moment in the game where it could be win or loss, I might sit there and go, right, I could do this or I could do this. And that's a habit I am trying to get out of because it's not fair on the other players. Although I do find it can sometimes build tension, because I know you do it occasionally.
Yeah.
And as I've said, it's one of the things I do when I play games, even without trying. I know roughly where people are on the points track. I know where I am, and I know roughly what people's potential moves could be. I've usually figured out which one I need them to do.
It's not just that, especially. I tend to be more guilty of that if there's one or two players to go. Like, say we've got to the final round of a game. It's very close, but I'm in position 1 or 2 in the turn order, and there are people behind me, because it's just, I think I know what I want to do, but if I start vocalizing my choices and watching very carefully, is that going to mess your plan up? Or your plan up? You're looking for the tells. It's like, well, if I do this, his eye twitched. He doesn't want me to do that.
Yeah. So that's why you look at me lovingly in the eyes when you're playing games, James.
Like, what are your tells? I still haven't worked out what your tells are. That's why.
That's because I'm just an emotionless wreck of a man.
No, it's because you just sit there grinning like a child. Like, I can't tell if he's like really worried that he's about to lose, or if he's just that smug that he knows he's already won.
I wouldn't say it's that, James. It's just I know that I don't have the best poker face. So the best thing for me to do is just grin like a Cheshire cat.
Yep.
Because then it throws everyone off. I think, if I'm honest, if I wasn't grinning, I think people would be able to tell straight away what I do and don't want, or how bad my game has gone. If I'm not grinning, I've got no chance of winning. That's the way. Yeah. If we're at the end of a game and I'm not grinning, you can count me out of the running. 100%, because I already know that I don't stand a chance. But yeah, I think another thing is silent turns for me. As I said, they slow down the game too much, because you'll get people asking what you've done. You get was it my turn yet? And all of that kind of jazz. That's a real con for me to silent turns. I would say a con to vocal turns, James, and I think we can actually have a little bit of a conversation about this, because we know a couple of people like this. Louder and more aggressive players during a vocal turn can really start to grate on a lot of players. And I know I am one of those players that gets really, really grated by very loud, very aggressive players. What do you think on that one?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got their play style, but yeah, it can get old quickly, especially if you've got, like, you've had a long day, you've got a headache building and all that kind of stuff. It's just almost like sensory overload, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Especially if you're adding the aggressive play nature into it as well. like you said, we like a little bit of banter in our games, but there's just a fine line between banter and just downright aggressive, annoying behaviour.
Yeah.
And I think that's where vocal turns, for me, can, I guess, is another one. It could breed that kind of aspect in a player.
Yeah.
So that to me is a huge con towards the vocal sides of things. But I mean, again, this was always going to be a short topical, James, because there's only so much you can talk about between talking and not talking.
Yep.
But if you had to pick, if you absolutely had to pick, you can't be the neutral ground here. What would you prefer
Vocal.
that everyone would have to do?
Vocal.
Yeah. Is there a particular thing that makes that the overall?
My personal playing experience with our group, it's the banter that comes with it. Because like I said, most of us aren't literally dry walking through what we're doing. It comes with banter that is in line with the game step we're on. If it's a movement, it's like, oh, well, I'm coming over here towards so-and-so, and then I'm going to play this card, and then I'm going to attack them while putting the card down. It's that kind of...
It's walking through, but not.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
It's not what I call a dry walking through, where you are literally almost reading the steps out of the rule book, going, okay, so I'm moving, then I'm doing this, then I'm doing that. It's like you've punctuated it with a bit of banter to make it fit more with the game, but you are still vocalizing your turn.
Yeah. So I think I'm also on I prefer the vocal turns, but I would say personally that might be because of the game groups that I'm part of, because for the most part, we're nearly always playing something new.
Yep.
It's very rare that we get to play a game so much that everyone can be silent and that everyone knows that game inside and out, to the point that, okay, little Jimmy's just done that and I know exactly what he's done without him telling me. That's where I feel like the silent turns might come back into the pros for me. Would be as if you're playing with that same game group, you've played that game hundreds of times, you know the game inside and out, and everyone does. It works as a silent turn there. But I think another positive for me, really, when it comes to vocal turns, is it does almost eradicate the fear of someone cheating.
Yes.
Which, as we've said many times, is a sad state of affairs when someone feels they need to cheat in a board game. But we have had people do that in the past. So this all but eradicates it, because they've got to tell you what they're doing, and you can visually see if they're doing something that they're not vocalizing.
I mean, the other pro to me is that it's kind of in the same vein, and we have spoken about it, but is catching mistakes, genuine mistakes.
Yes.
It's like if someone goes to do something, and then someone else is going, hang on a minute, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. I thought it worked like,
Again, we can use the games we played the other day. I misunderstood a particular rule in the Fallout game.
Yep.
And it was highlighted immediately, and I changed my turn, and we fixed it straight away. Rest of the game, no problem.
Yep.
And that came from vocalizing what I was doing. So I do think that there are pros and cons to both. I still think, for me, vocal turns are the way of the future. It's far more social.
Yep. I suppose that does lead on to a con, though, because we did silent turns extending game length. I would say that's vocal turns extending game length, because if you do catch a mistake, it's usually a follow-up discussion about the rules, which in turn extends the turn.
It does, but for the fact that you're then playing the game properly.
Yep.
I would say the pro of the game being played properly, and therefore not going south, or someone being overly powerful and winning and all that jazz,
outweighs the con.
It outweighs that con. I would far rather play a game properly than wrong, and then find out that my victory was, in vain. Yeah. Or someone else's victory was in vain. But yeah, I would say that pro definitely outweighs that con. But yeah, it's an interesting little topic, James. It needed to be a quick one tonight because you've come straight from work. I've got a long day of travelling tomorrow, and for those of you that don't know, it's been snowing here, so that makes my day even worse.
Yep.
Because I'm using public transport tomorrow, James. Isn't that going to be fun?
Oh, good.
I mean, obviously they didn't have problems today because they were striking again. But tomorrow, that's going to be the question. Are they going to come back to work? Who knows? knows? But anything else you want to say on the subject, James?
No, I think we've covered everything there, Jace.
Excellent stuff. I'm glad this was quite a short episode because I'm quite tired. But yeah, what games are we going to play this week, James? We're not playing a game tonight because we're both very, very tired. But what games are we going to play this week?
I don't know. What did we decide we were going to play on Wednesday?
I believe the next home game night we agreed that we were going to play Reign of Cthulhu.
Yes.
And I believe
It's a game that Ant's bringing.
Ant's bringing over the Alien deck building game, the one that's Alien Legendary Encounters or whatever it's called.
Yep.
Which will be my first time play of that.
It'll be mine as well.
Looking forward to that, and I've got a few friends that are interested in playing that as well. So, yes, there might be a few plays of both of those games over the next couple of weeks, so we may or may not talk about them on future episodes.
Indeed.
Which will be interesting. I know we've both played Reign of Cthulhu before, which is the pandemic system.
Yep.
You still haven't played the normal pandemic
I
games.
have not played the Gateway game.
You have not played the Gateway game, which we will have to change because there is some really good aspects to that game. So, and if we are going to do an episode on Reign of Cthulhu, I think you need to at least a basic knowledge of the original system. So, yes. I think other than that, we should just say goodbye. Because it is that time.
Yep. I don't know. I don't know if I could bring myself to play it though, Jason, having actually lived through a real pandemic.
Yeah, it's
So I could win that game easy. How do you win pandemic? You buy up all the toilet roll and you lock yourself in your house.
Thus is the logic of humankind.
Indeed.
Mankind. Love it. New games turning up from Kickstarter soon, James. Really looking forward to it. Oh, especially that Masters of the Universe game. I've been waiting so long for that game. I really should finish painting the miniatures that I already have.
You should. No grey plastic on the table, Jason.
None of it is grey, thank you very much, James. It's further ahead than yours. Then again, I didn't have to construct mine, so, a little bit of a get out of jail free card there from me. Anyway, let's head off, James.
Let's do it.
Till next week, I've been Jason.
And I've been James.
And you've been listening to the Meeple Minded podcast. Join us next week for more tabletop gaming goodness. Ta-ta and goodbye.